Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. My Sharingan is blackened, automatic upgrade system. Chapter 61. I really didn't expect why unlucky things always happen to us. I finally escaped from the enemy's lair, and now I'm lost here again. Lin, haven't you been to that place? How can you forget the road? Asma squatted on the ground and looked around with a hint of anger. How can you blame me? I only came here once when I was a child. You also know that the memory at that time was not that strong. Forget it now, it's normal. Yuan Yelin clasped her hands together, her expression a little aggrieved. She didn't want to forget this path, but there was really no way. Forget it, Lin can't be blamed for this. If we have the time to talk, we might as well hurry up and look for it. This place is quite open, maybe we just can't find our way. At this time, we can't have differences. We must work together. Sake Tien carefully observed the surrounding terrain. There is a canyon ahead, and the roads on both sides are very spacious. Although I can know where I came from, I really can't find north and south when I look around. I remember now. Yuan Yelin was not discouraged by this, and carefully recalled her previous memories and finally found something useful. What? All eyes were on Yuan Yelin, looking forward to the next words. I remember that when I got to this place, I had to go north and keep going. If I remember correctly, it must have been so. Yuan Yelin looked around and frowned again. Because there is no east, west, north, south at all in this place. At this moment, everyone fell into silence again. No one knew exactly how to find north. Then it seems that there is only one problem now, since this is much easier to handle. Sakishin made sure this time, and gradually smiled. After all, as a traveler, it is very easy to find the north direction. Everyone focused all their eyes on Qi Tian, and they didn't know what kind of confidence Qi Tian had. Qianshan, do you really have a way to find it? I always feel a little unbelievable. Yu Hihong asked incredulously. The others also nodded at this time, and no one wanted to make a joke at this time. They also want to hurry up and leave this ghost place. Sakita nodded. Don't worry. As long as I'm here, you will be fine. And it's very easy to find a direction. Of course, this is for me. Sakishin pointed to himself with his thumb and said proudly. Everyone didn't say anything more. Kishin brought them too many surprises. Looking forward to it now. After all, Sake Tien found a small wooden stick nearby, and then raised his head to look at the sun in the sky. When the time was just right, the wooden stick was inserted into the ground, and a small stone was placed outside the shadow. Okay, you're done. Kishin was very happy when he clapped his hands and watched his results. But others said they were baffled and couldn't understand what was going on. Is it possible to find north with a stick and a stone? Sake Tien, you are sure you are not lying to us? It's as simple as that. Then tell us where we are. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin very anxiously. In such a place where the birds don't shit, no one wants to stay for a moment longer. Don't worry, you need to wait a little longer. I will tell you when the results come out. Don't worry, wait patiently. This process is actually very interesting. Sake Tien looked at Kurenai Yuhi and said with a smile. Using shadows to observe, this is also the first time for Sakiden to use it. I have never experimented before, after all, I have never had a chance before. Now I can only rely on my previous memory to recall carefully. After all, I only know so much. Probably there should be nothing wrong. Okay, don't worry, let's just wait patiently. You can find it in about 10 or 20 minutes. Qi Tian asked them to sit down, and he was still standing in front of the wooden stick, his eyes fixed on the wooden stick. 15 minutes passed quickly. Kishin also got the result he wanted in the end. With the memories in his mind, he feels that this result is no problem at all. Everyone come here, the direction of the single room here is the north we are looking for. As long as we keep going here, we can reach our destination. Sakiden pointed at them at an arrow on the ground. The passage of the sun just now made the wooden stick also form a shadow gap. Everyone was a little surprised at this time, and more still couldn't believe it. After all, this method has never been heard before, and it will be very troublesome if you go wrong. Although you won't encounter any enemies, it is indeed a waste of time. This is really not a problem. Some people can't believe it. And just relying on these two things is too hasty. Yu Hahong could see those things on the ground and felt that his own IQ had been insulted. Everyone else felt the same way. After all, they had never seen it before. I don't even know what these things do. You don't know this, it's very reliable. When I had nothing to do, I always liked to think about things. This is also what I figured out at that time. As for the principle, it is like this. Kishin looked at them feeling very disbelieving, and finally decided to tell them the truth. Although it is not entirely correct, it has already said something very necessary. After the whole principle was explained, everyone's face showed a surprised expression. All felt very magical. Is it really so miraculous? This is the first time I have encountered such a thing. It's really incredible. Asma immediately came to the side of the small wooden stick and observed it carefully. The remaining 3 people are also very interested in coming to the front. And they also noticed that the shadow of the small wooden stick was moving slowly. It moved, it really moved. It's also really amazing. It turns out that we can still find our way by this method. Yu Hihong danced happily, completely immersed in joy. Kishin looked at the 4 of them, and smiled helplessly. As a child, it is very normal to be able to behave like this. Okay, don't study anymore. Let's hurry up and get out of here. Leave earlier, arrive earlier. Sake Tien came to several people and said to them. But the few of them had no intention of leaving at all. Sake Tien, can you take a break here? It's just for us to study it. And the sun is also very good now, let us experiment. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin with an aggrieved expression. This is what Kishin can't bear the most, and he has no way to refuse. He simply nodded and agreed. Take a break for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, let's hurry up and start. If those enemies rush over, it will be troublesome. Kishin had been thinking about bringing out the enemies to scare them. But these 4 people didn't understand at all, and they were all immersed in the small wooden stick. Well, if I knew it earlier, I wouldn't explain it clearly to them. In this way, all their energy will be put there. It's like a Frankenstein. If there's even a little bit of interest, they're in the mood. Chi Tien found a clean place to sit down, but he was still very helpless. It is now noon and the sun is very bright. Lie down slowly. Open your eyes and look at the blue sky. I'm afraid I don't know when I can come out when I go home this time. And it feels like time is passing so slowly, and there are still many things to go through. It's no good that time passes slowly. I really hope that those things can pass sooner. Don't worry about it anymore. Chi Tien lay on the ground in his mind, thinking about the things in the original book. Time passed slowly, and several of them also got their own results. Although this method is very good, if it is night, there is no other way. After the 5 people made their decision, they set off again and walked forward. They passed by many beautiful places, but also passed by many cold places. In such a short distance, the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn and winter are complete. It's really amazing. I remember my father said before that this road is called 4 Seasons Road. It really lives up to its name. Yuan Yellen shivered as she hugged her arm. Chi Tien and others nodded. After all, they can feel the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn and winter on this road. Quicken your pace, walk towards the front, and finally finish walking this street. After walking out, they finally saw the destination they were going to. I have to say that it is really good, no matter the size of the village or the buildings inside. It can be said that they are all first class. This place is too grand, it's so big, you can't see their sides at all. This time, we are the ones to play. Yu Hahong stood there and looked at the distance, happy. And I haven't been this happy for a long time. Okay, since we're here now, let's go in as soon as possible and find a place where we can live. You still have money. Sake Tien was a little worried. After all, if you don't have any money, it's really hard to move an inch. Don't worry, the money is enough for us to spend for a long time. Then let's hurry up and go. Yu Hihong shook the purse in her backpack and looked at him with a smile. Chi Tien smiled, and then walked in with a few of them. Although this village is not a big country, it still has many beautiful scenery. It is also the most worth visiting here. It's really beautiful here. It's completely different from our village. It's really a pleasure to come to this place this time. I must be here, to relax and relax. After Yuhihong walked into this village, her first reaction was that she was very happy. No matter what it is, she is seeing it for the first time. The same is true of everyone else. After all, this is the first time they have traveled so far away from home. It really didn't disappoint me here. Lin, the place you recommended is really great. Obito looked at Haruno Lin with a smile. Actually, this is also different from what I have seen before. The place I got before is not as beautiful as it is now. It seems that they have also put in a lot of effort. Yuan Yelin carefully observed the surroundings, and then spoke very seriously. Of course, every place will improve. They also want to make their village look better. That way more people can come to their place. That is to say, they can earn money by traveling. Qi Tian walked beside them and said in a low voice. As soon as this sentence was said, everyone seemed to suddenly realize it. The reason for this is as simple as that. If no one came to their village, there was absolutely no need for them to make this place so beautiful. After all, it will be annoying one day if you look at it yourself. Let's not talk so much. Anyway, it is very correct for us to come to this place this time. But the most important thing to do now is to find a place to live. Then put our things there. It won't be too late to come out and play. Sake Tien finally said the most important thing now. Everyone nodded, and then began to look around. See if there is a place that fits their requirements. I am not familiar with the place of life, so I want to have a good time here, and I can't be tricked by others. That can only be done with caution. About half an hour passed, and several of them finally found a hotel. Although the scale is not very large, the conditions inside are really good, and the price is also quite impressive. After everyone reached a consensus, they bought 2 rooms. 1 room for boys and 1 room for girls. But boys need a person to make a bed on the floor, and there are not so many beds in the room. Okay, everyone, hurry up and pack your things. After an hour, gather below. We must be together at all times in this place, and never separate. Kishin took the room key and came to the door of the room and said to the girls. The 2 girls nodded and walked in. As soon as he entered, he opened his mouth wide. Although I already know what it looks like inside, but you can only feel the real thing after you live in it. It's really amazing here, and the big windows with the big bed. It's a paradise on earth. Yuhihong put the luggage on the ground at once, and threw herself on the bed in an instant. Yuan Yelin was also very happy at this time, but she was not that lively. Qi Tian and the other 3 boys also walked in, and after putting down their things, they also began to observe the room carefully. It's exactly the same place as the girls live, both are very domineering and luxurious. They also want to live here for a few days. It's really great, I can finally have a good rest now. In this environment, it is definitely possible to sleep comfortably. Asma sat down on the edge of the bed and looked around happily. It's impossible to sleep late. Don't forget the purpose of our coming here this time. It's to come here to see the beautiful scenery, not to let you stay in a hotel. Sake Tien patted him on the shoulder, then looked at him with a smile. Asma nodded. At this time, the 3 of them also started to pack their things. An hour is short after all. They also want to rest after cleaning up. This afternoon is also very simple, go out to eat something, and then look around to get acquainted. This is often the case on the first day. There is nothing to do but to walk around. It's so comfortable. I just drank a little more. Now I feel that my physical strength is gradually recovering. I don't know if there is anything particularly beautiful outside this afternoon. Wish they didn't need tickets for this place. Kishin sat on the edge of the bed and looked out the window, then whispered. Let's go, it's getting late. It's time for us to go down and gather. Asma came to the 2 of them and told them. The 2 members of the Uchiha family nodded at the same time, then stood up and walked out of the room. In this way, the 3 boys came to the hall below and began to wait. But those 2 girls never came, and Asma and Obito were quite curious. Sakita just sat there very carelessly. After all, only he knows how troublesome it is for girls to go out. What are they doing? Why haven't they come out for so long? Is there some accident? Asma will be a little anxious tomorrow, and has been looking at the direction of the stairs. It's okay, don't worry. The 2 girls will be fine. Let's just wait here for a while. It should be here soon. Kishin came to Asma with a smile, and then looked at him with a smile. Asma didn't understand what was going on, but he still believed in Sakadin. The three found a place to sit down. This is also the first time for the few of them to come to this kind of place, and the clothes worn by the people on the street are very strange. And most of the things sold here, they have never heard of it. I didn't expect the outside world to be completely different from our village. At first, I thought there were no similarities. It seems that I was wrong. Asma looked ahead with a smile. Obito also nodded at the same time. After all, this was his first time traveling far. Of course, every place in the world cannot be exactly the same. That's a sure thing, too. Chi Tien explained to them that he is still older than them, and he knows a little more about it. Sitting like this, the three boys sat here and talked for a long time, and finally waited for the two girls to appear. Although there are many complaints, there is no way to speak out. After all, no one wants to be beaten. The two girls were dressed up so beautifully, otherwise they wouldn't have spent so long. After seeing their appearance, Kishin was secretly happy. After all, his guess was indeed correct. Girls always dress up before going out, whether they are children or adults. After the five people got together, they started their day's tour. Although they don't know where many places are, they still go to familiarize themselves with the route. After all, they were going to stay here for several days. I didn't expect this village. No matter where it is very beautiful. It seems that this time is really worth it. And all the trees in their village are cherry blossoms, which is really unexpected. Kishin walked on the road and saw the cherry blossom trees on both sides, and seemed to recall some good memories. Having been in this world for so long, Sake Tien also really wanted to see the stretches of cherry blossom trees. Now that wish has finally come true. In the previous world, when Sake Tien watched those action movies, he always wanted to see the cherry blossom tree with his own eyes. Sure enough, it's really beautiful. It's not as cool as seeing it with your own eyes in an action movie. Chi Tien came under the cherry blossom tree with a smile, and looked up at the cherry blossoms on the top of the tree. At this moment, his heart was very excited, and it suddenly occurred to me that I had really traveled to the world of Naruto. What a wonderful coincidence. It also represents how lucky I am. Sake Tien, come here quickly. There are more interesting things ahead. Kurenai Yuhi shouted loudly at Sakadin. Sake Tien nodded, and then touched the bark of the cherry blossom tree with his hand. Finally, he quickened his pace and ran in the direction of the few of them. The five people gathered together and were very happy. If they had something, they all shared it with each other. And encountered a lot of interesting things. However, the happy time is often very short, and the day passes quickly. Although they didn't encounter any particularly beautiful scenery, they had already inquired about the place and familiarized themselves with the streets. As long as these two things are done well, the next thing will be easy. After Chi Tien and the others returned to the hotel, they started a detailed plan. This time, the time is limited, so we must plan carefully. That way you won't have time and you can enjoy it well. Now let's talk about your own opinions, and if you have any opinions, feel free to put them forward. Anyway, we still have one night. We will start to act tomorrow after discussing the plan. Chi Tien sat by the bed in his bedroom and looked at them. They began to think about being a human being, and they all attached great importance to these ideas. After just thinking about it, everyone speaks out their own ideas, and everyone has different ideas. And everyone wants to go differently. Your opinions are very much divided. Now there is trouble. Let me think about it carefully, and there will definitely be a good solution. Think about it, everyone. After knowing that everyone has their own ideas, Kishin suddenly felt a very headache. After all, I am not good at solving these things myself. As time passed, several of them also began to think. Although I was centered on myself at the beginning, but later I found that there is no way to play well if this is the case. Chi Tien looked at them and it was difficult to make a choice, although there were several people who wanted to go to the same place. But there are one or two people who want to go elsewhere. Looking at the expectant eyes of everyone, Kishin fell into a predicament. Don't quarrel anymore. Let me talk about it, and you can see if it works. Let's vote to decide. I just heard from you that there are only two places I want to go to now. Let's go to the place with the most votes first, and then go to the next place. That's it. Sake Tien thought about it carefully, and then said to them. After all, this method is the most appropriate now. All the people nodded after listening, and now there is only one way to solve it. Okay, then do as you say. I have no objection. Red Yuhi nodded. The others also nodded. It seems that they have no problem with this method. Chi Tien was also very satisfied after seeing the reactions of several of them. Then let's start voting now. There must be no way for 5 people to tie the vote. Sakita looked at them with a smile. Ancient City, Fuyong Lake. 5 people began to vote, and finally the ancient city had 3 votes, and Fuyong Lake had 2 votes. Okay, now the answer is obvious. Let's hurry up and go to the ancient city tomorrow. Then let's go to Poyang Lake. Then everyone has no objections. Kishan looked at the result. Everyone nodded, no problem. Chi Tien, Shi Hai Hong, Yuan Lin voted for the ancient city, and the remaining 2 voted for Fuyong Lake. Everyone looked okay after seeing the result, and they were all very much looking forward to tomorrow's game. Everyone returned to their rooms, took the time to wash up, and began to rest. When they sleep, they are also imagining the picture of tomorrow. The night passed quickly, and they gathered together again the next morning. This time they simply discussed what to bring. After all, you have to tidy up well when you go out. As long as they go out of this place, they can come back at night. They also have to prepare something more. 10 minutes later, they gathered at the door again. Everyone pack up, let's go. It's quite early now, so I can definitely have a good day of fun. This saves a lot of time. Kishan looked at a few of them, and then looked at the weather outside. Today's weather is very good, sunny and very suitable for going out to play. And they couldn't wait any longer. All 5 of them put what they needed to bring on their bodies. For going out to play this time, they also worked hard. Let's go quickly. I can't wait. Yuhi Hong looked at them very excitedly. The others were also very excited, and they all wanted to take a look at the scenery there. Sake Tien nodded, then picked up his equipment and led them out of the hotel. They had already found the route yesterday. This time they were also able to arrive at their destination very smoothly. It is indeed important to do a good job in strategy. At least then don't panic. This journey is really smooth. I came to the ancient city so quickly. It's amazing. 5 people came to their first tourist attraction. A whole ancient city stood in front of them, looking very domineering. The traces of previous battles can be seen very clearly on the surface. And most of the workmanship belongs to the retro category. This is too spectacular. This is the first time I have seen such a building. We don't have anything like this in Muya village. It's really the first time I've seen it. Yuhi Hong clasped her hands together, her eyes were very sincere. Everyone else had the same expression, and everyone was shocked. Moreover, if this ancient city is built, it will take a lot of time and a lot of manpower. Let's not just look outside, take the time to look inside, maybe there will be more shocking. Sakita looked at them and waved his hand. Everyone nodded and walked in together. The situation inside is the same as outside, but they are all very shocked after seeing it. In this ancient city, they played in it for a full 3 hours. And no one felt tired, but very excited. After they came out, they also hesitated. After all, this kind of place is not available every time. Let's not stay here any longer. Hurry up and go to the next place. Maybe it will be very beautiful there. Kishan saw their hesitation, and then said with a smile. Everyone nodded, and still looked behind when they left. These places are enough for them to remember for a lifetime. Although it is the outside world, they can at least see it now. When everyone was walking on the road, they kept talking about the ancient city just now. This shows how much they like it. Sake Tien himself feels very lucky to be able to see such a building here. No regrets at all. The 5 people quickened their pace and soon came to the next place, although there was no big ancient building here, but that big lake is very spectacular. Standing next to him is as small as an ant. It's too big here. This is the first time I've seen such a big lake. It would be really cool if there was a way to preserve it. You can take a look when you want to come here again in the future. Asma was extremely excited, and this was where he most hoped to come. Although Obito didn't say anything, his eyes were always looking at the big lake. It was obvious that they both really liked it here. Kishan said he was very calm. After all, he had seen the sea before. It's not worth mentioning at all in comparison. It's actually not bad. But if compared with the first place, it's still a little bit worse. Kishan didn't say it to the two of them, but to the two girls. Yu Hihong and Yuan Yelin nodded slightly. They both felt the same way. Yeah, what's so good about this place? It's not as good as the previous place, but it's good that the two of them like it. After all, you can't let them feel cold. Yu Hihong said very quietly with a smile on her face. Yuan Yelin smiled softly. I always feel that the two of them have never grown up. Qi Tian looked at this big lake, and then nodded. Afterwards, the five of them walked around the big lake. I have to say that it is really quite big, and it took an hour to walk around. I'm really exhausted. I didn't expect it to be so big. And there are a lot of fish in it. Kishan panted heavily, looking at the lake in front of him. How about this place? Anyway, I like this place very much, if I can live here for the rest of my life. Even if I have to eat fish for the rest of my life, I am willing. Asma folded her hands in front of her and looked at them very proudly. None of them said anything, just smiled awkwardly. If they were allowed to eat fish for a lifetime, they would still choose to live in that ancient city. Obito, it seems that the choice of the two of us is indeed correct. At least we still have a lot of fish here. If there is nothing else, you can enjoy it. And you can bring some food to feed them. Asma looked at Obito and said with a smile. Obito nodded, but I don't want to live here. After all, our home is in Konoha. The views of the two people are inconsistent again at this time. Keep your voice down, both of you. Didn't you tell me not to tell us where we came from? If there is trouble at that time, we guarantee that we will not know you at the first time. Kishan looked around for a moment to make sure there was no one around, and then whispered to them. The two of them immediately shut their mouths when they heard these words. I really don't understand these kids. Such a thing can happen anytime. Fortunately, no one is here now. Okay, now you've seen what you wanted to see. Then let's hurry up and leave. I'm already so hungry. Find a place to sit and eat something. Qi Tian frowned slightly, and then looked around. After getting the consent of several of them, everyone came to a small lawn. Although not very big, it is indeed suitable for picnics. Everyone puts the food they brought on the front. Looking at the food they brought, no one did not drool. Don't say much and eat directly. The dry man, the dry soul. Cooked rice is number one anytime. It's really comfortable, and I saw what I wanted to see. It's really worth it to come this time. When we grow up, wait until there is no war. We can come out again. This is really very comfortable. After Qi Tian finished eating, he sat on the spot and looked at them. And it seems to see what they will look like in the future. But after thinking about it for a moment, Qi Tian also frowned slightly. The few people next to me, 2 people died in the back, and 1 person became the world boss. This result is not what everyone wants. Then let's make an agreement together. We'll come out and play together when we're adults. Maybe it will be more interesting than now, and these places may be better than now. Yu Hihong looked at them with a smile. Very much looking forward to what I want to say next. Everyone thought about it carefully, and then nodded. They also don't know what they will look like in the future, and they don't know what the result will be. But cherishing the time in front of you is the most important thing. I don't think so much now. If I can change it, I will try my best to change it. Sakishin secretly made up his mind, and then smiled at them. Everyone nodded and put their hands together. Then this agreement is established at this time. Qi Tian looked at them and said with a smile on his face. All the people smiled and raised their hands to the sky together. It is very simple for children to be together, except to eat and play. Okay, it's getting late, let's hurry up and go back. There are only a few days left before the Chinese New Year in our village. Let's also think about when we're going home. Qi Tian stood up, and then looked at a few of them. Then they went back to the hotel where they had stayed before again. Everyone started to rest. After all, time is tight now, so we have to make a good plan. When they came to this place, they also saw a lot of places and ate a lot of food. They also bought a lot of souvenirs, which will become the most precious memories in their lives this time. After playing, I packed up my things and walked out of this village. The four other than Sakadin looked in from the entrance of the village. It seems that there is some reluctance. Let's go, we will definitely come again in the future. After Qi Tian noticed them, he came to the side and talked to them. Everyone nodded reluctantly, and then started their way home. There was no difference on the way home from before, except that there were a little more things and the speed of action was slower. When Kishan was walking on the road, he was still worried. After all, those bandits must have been looking for them before. If you encounter it when you go back, there will be some inevitable battles again. Everyone can't relax at this time. In case you encounter those enemies on the way home. We're going to fight again. So be careful, and stay vigilant at all times. Kishan came to them and spoke to them very seriously. Everyone nodded, and they all understood very well. After the basic situation was clarified, they once again set foot on the road home. When I went there, I felt that it took a long time, but when I came home, I felt that the time was relatively short. Okay, let's rest here. We have walked a long way. Drink some water and eat something. After a rest, we will continue our journey. Qi Tian walked to an open space, and then put down the luggage in his hands. But he didn't know that this area also belonged to bandits. Yu Hihong and the others felt a little relaxed at this time, and after walking so far, they are all very tired. Not willing to pay attention to other places at all. I hope no enemies will appear. Sakishin had been observing the surroundings while they were resting, and he had been praying in his heart. But very helpless, God often likes to fight against them. While resting, there were some chaotic sounds around him. Qi Tian instantly felt that something was wrong, stood up abruptly, and then took out his weapon. What happened? Yu Hihong also instantly realized that something was wrong. There are situations. There may be those enemies. All ready to fight at any time. Kishan clenched the weapon in his hand and whispered to them. Several of them also raised their vigilance, staring at their surroundings tightly with both eyes. It's really hard to find you. I didn't expect to meet here. It seems that God doesn't want you to leave alive. One after another voices reached their ears from the depths of the forest. At this moment, Kishan realized that what should come will always come. What should be faced is always faced. Then dozens of people came out of the forest and surrounded them. A battle is about to start. Do we know each other? Kishan looked at them and tried to get away with it. You said we knew each other or not. Although we don't know each other, you must know my eldest brother. My elder brother died at your hands, and I am here today to take your lives to commemorate my elder brother. So that my eldest brother can have a companion on Wangquan Road. A thin, bald man walked towards him with an extremely arrogant expression. After Qi Tian saw this person, although he hadn't seen it, he could still understand the purpose of these people coming here. Although physically different, they look very similar and both have bald heads. I don't know your elder brother, why did you come to us? Sakishin still pretended not to understand. But he also knew that all of this was useless. The good boy still doesn't admit it until now, so it seems that there is no other way. Anyway, you are all going to die. Since you want to die in a daze, then I can't stop you. The thin, bald head looked at them with a sickly smile. Kishan shook his head slightly. It seems that we have no way to avoid this battle. Be careful in a while, this time their strength should not be weak. After hearing Sake Tian's words, everyone nodded and got ready to attack. Give it to me, kill them all to avenge our big brother. The thin bald head gave an order to his subordinates at this time. Yes, his subordinates also agreed unanimously, and began to know all kinds of weapons. Extremely arrogant, Qi Tian clenched the weapon in his hand. Facing these enemies, he did not reveal any timidity. After all, he also knows that these enemies are not particularly powerful after all. Just be careful, all can be resolved. Let's go together and kill them to avenge the boss. The little brothers shouted loudly, and rushed up angrily with weapons. Kishan looked at Yu Hihong and others and nodded, ready to start to resist. Brush brush. One after another silhouettes came to Kishan. These enemies knew that Kishan was the most difficult to deal with, so most of the combat power came to deal with Kishan. The few remaining people were dedicated to dealing with Yu Hihong and the others. I have to go through these things before I go home, but it really affects my mood too much. Kishin looked at the enemies around him and felt very uncomfortable. And the anger value is already full, and it may erupt at any time. 8-door Dunjia, the first door, open. The second door, open. The third door, open. Kishin felt that there was no need to waste time here, so he directly chose to open the third door. It was his first attempt to open 3 doors in one go. Obviously, very optimistic, without any side effects. In the face of these enemies, it is enough to use the 8-door Dunjia, and Sharingan is completely unnecessary. With 2 eyes fixed on an enemy, and then quickly dispatched, a dodge came to the enemy. Quack! Grab the enemy's neck with one hand, and break the enemy's neck with force. His limbs went limp and he fell to the ground. The next step will be easy, as long as you have a handy weapon. Kishin looked at the big knife on the ground, then picked it up with a smile. Now he faced more enemies. If he relied on his bare hands, it would indeed waste a lot of time. Picking up the weapon and looking at the enemies around him, he burst out laughing. The enemies glanced at their teammates at each other, then gritted their teeth and charged forward. Whether they succeed or not, they all want to give it a try. As desperados, they have long regarded life as something outside of them. Court death. After finishing speaking, Kishin's body blurred instantly, and when he reappeared, he was already standing in front of one of the enemies. Stab it! A white light flashed, and a streak of blood flew across the ground, spraying on the ground. The enemy instantly separated from the waist and became 2 halves. I'm going. This aspect is really horrible. There's some left. Sakita hastily turned his attention to other enemies. Then start walking among them. During the shuttle, the enemies fell to the ground one by one. Either cut off from his own waist, or his head was broken. It was a horrible scene, and the scene was very bloody. No matter who sees this picture, it will become a shadow in his life. I'm going. It's really disgusting. If I had known this was the result, I wouldn't have made them so miserable. Kishin felt a little nauseated, and hurried to other places. Take a few breaths of fresh air. Then at this moment he noticed that there was a person looking at himself. Looking slowly, I found that the pair of eyes came from the thin and bald head. So it was him. How did you forget him? He's the last boss in this one. Just get rid of him. Kishin smiled and walked slowly towards the thin and bald head. In this case, any normal person will show a state of fear. But this thin and bald man didn't have that fearful state, instead he was a little happy. Boy, I didn't expect your physical skills to be so powerful. It seems that I underestimated you. No wonder my elder brother died in your hands. If you were not so powerful, it would be impossible to hurt my elder brother. But my strength is much stronger than my elder brother. Before that, I have to thank you very much. The thin bald head showed a gloomy smile, looking at Kishin and smiling. Oh, I'm curious then. What do you want to thank me for? Kishin suddenly became interested at this time. After all, such words are indeed very strange. The two walked towards each other slowly. The appearance was extremely peaceful, no one did anything, and they were all smiling. At this time, Chi-Tien always felt that the man in front of him was very ridiculous. It might be what he said, or it might be his bald head. Actually, I've wanted my elder brother to disappear a long time ago, but I haven't thought of a good way. But it's really a coincidence that they met you. Then they became your undead. In this way, a lot of things are saved, and no one will doubt me. The thin, bald head uttered such a big news. The brother actually wanted the elder brother to die. This must be because of money and power, and another possibility is because of women. It's really scary. Now that I know about it, I'll go with the flow. Then your elder brother is getting rid of you, and it can be regarded as helping your elder brother get rid of a rat shit. Chi-Tien stood there and smiled softly, completely ignoring the bald head in front of him. No matter how much the two of them laughed, the aura of fighting between them gradually increased. The two of them instantly increased the distance, ready to start fighting at any time. Kishin is very worried about one thing now, that is, what hole cards does the thin bald head have that can make him behave like this? Chi-Tien's eyes were fixed, his body was blurred, and he rushed to the enemy in an instant, and began to attack quickly with both hands. Kishin in the 3-door state has a very obvious improvement in speed, strength, and explosive power. And Kishin in this state is obviously very relaxed, and he doesn't feel the strenuous feeling in the three-door state. The bald man's parry was completely fine at the beginning, but the further he went, the more he couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Hurry up, this kid is hard to deal with. The bald man took advantage of the gap to instantly distance himself. At this time, there were already very obvious scars on his face. Kishin didn't take advantage of the victory to pursue, and stood still and made a little adjustment. After all, in this mode, it is quite exhausting. It's so difficult, it would be great if the Bamindungia can be improved a bit. There are still 4 doors that cannot be opened, and it suddenly feels so difficult. Kishin rubbed his head, feeling a little headache. The breath around the body fluctuates up and down, strong and weak. This kid is too strong, there is a big difference between strength and budget. I made a mistake this time, but I can't just let it go. The bald man looked at Kishin very angry and felt extremely uncomfortable. Baldhead, I still have a lot that you don't know. If you want to know, then persist until I beat you to death. It feels like I have all this kung fu. If I don't let you see it, I will feel very uncomfortable. Kishin looked at the enemy with a smile, as if looking at the prey. After the enemy heard Chi Tian's words, his veins bulged, he was out of breath, and extremely angry. Staring at Kishin, he threw the weapon in his hand. It flew out with a swipe, extremely fast. Since the melee attack doesn't work, you might as well try a long-distance attack. Maybe there will be unexpected results. Chi Tian looked at the weapon flying towards him, smiled slightly, and didn't take this attack seriously at all. Do you really think that you can kill me like this? Then you are really naive. Kishin turned on the kaleidoscope in an instant, staring at the weapon with both eyes. The originally very fast weapon almost became static in an instant. Take out the kunai, tap on the stationary weapon, and shorten it one direction. The originally stationary weapon returned to the enemy at a fast speed. What? The enemy was surprised, and just about to flee, he found his shoulder all of a sudden. Blood spurted out all of a sudden, and fell to the ground. The expression is also relatively very painful. Kishin looked at the enemy who was lying on the ground clutching his wound, and smiled lightly. I took a look just now, and your subordinates seem to be almost dead. It seems that the result of this battle is destined to be our victory. It's just right to go to Wangquan Road to plead guilty to your boss. Chi Tian squatted in front of him, smiling at the enemy. Although the enemy was very angry, and he wanted to fight back, but he couldn't use his hands anymore. Yu Hihong and the 4 of them have now solved all the remaining ordinary enemies. And I have also suffered some injuries, but these are completely fine. Okay, time is running out. We have to hurry up. Then please go, there is someone on the road to Wangquan. Go all the way, vote for a good person in your next life. As soon as the voice fell, the knife was raised and the head fell to the ground. The whole movement was very smooth, without any hesitation. For such a scumbag, Kishin has no sympathy at all. After all, such a person has done too many bad things, and solving him is also eliminating harm for the people. After dealing with the enemy, Sakuden also cancelled the Hachimandungia and Sharingan at the same time, and returned to the normal state. Everyone is fine. It seems that this time is also quite lucky, the strength of the enemy is not very strong. Kishin came to them and looked at them with a smile. It was very clear that they had some small abrasions on their bodies, but none of the fatal injuries. We are all fine, don't worry, these minor injuries will not take long to recover. This time we are also quite enjoyable. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Kishin with a smile. That's good, we have been delayed for a long time. Go to the front place to rest first. Then we started driving again, this place is really disgusting. And it's kind of horrible. Kishin looked at the surrounding environment and felt nauseated again. Everyone nodded, and then hurriedly left this place. Not only Chi Tian, but several of them almost vomited when they saw such a thing. But as a ninja, this kind of scene will definitely be encountered frequently in the future. If you don't exercise, how can you grow? Just rest here, drink some water, and eat some food. The air is quite fresh, and there is no smell of blood. Chi Tian found a place to sit down, and then took out some water from his backpack. Gudong, Gudong, I took a few sips of water to dispel the nausea. The others also found a place to sit down and began to rest. After a battle, they also thought of being exhausted. Right now I just want to rest and relax. Those pictures just now have been replaying infinitely in their minds. These enemies are not to be feared, their strength is very weak, only the boss can use a ninjutsu and the origin is still unknown. The bandits have always relied on their size to bully others. And they have done a lot of bad things. Chi Tianping recovered his mood, looked at the crowd and said what happened just now. Bandits are indeed very hateful. They usually do all kinds of evil, oppressing the people and robbing their daughters. Although such a person is very cute, it is also caused by this world. It's bad luck for them to meet them this time. Yu Hihong pursed her mouth and said angrily. Yeah, we are doing justice for the sky. So, we did a good thing. Yuan Yelin raised her hands above her head and said with a smile. Qi Tian looked at them with a smile, and felt that such a time was also very good. Although this time all these enemies were resolved, but they don't know how many such enemies there are in this world. There is simply no way to wipe them all out. After eliminating these people, there will be others, and even many people will make a comeback. There is one thing I don't know if you will be unhappy if you say it. It's about you. If you don't want to hear it, then I won't say it. Kishin looked at a few of them, thought about it carefully, and said such words. Obviously, he didn't want to talk about it either, but I couldn't help but ask their opinion first. It's okay, just talk. We won't mind anyway, but if what you say is really hurtful, then don't blame me and you for being angry. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin and smiled, as if what she said had other meanings. Sakita nodded, then looked at the others. The rest of the people nodded after hesitating for a few seconds. Okay, since that's the case, let me tell you something. Anyway, I feel that these words are very meaningful to you. Qi Tian once again sold a pass. After all, he must first pave the way for the next words. It would be bad if the words hurt them. Actually, it's not that serious. I just want to say that your strength is still very weak. Take this battle as an example. The sum of the few of you is not as strong as mine. Of course, I'm not mocking you. I just want you to recognize the reality. Sake Tian was very careful, and talked to them very carefully. And these words are said after careful consideration. It must be the kind that doesn't hurt people, but also allows them to listen to it. Actually, we all know this. Our strength is very clear. We don't want to be like this, we also want to become stronger. That way we can protect ourselves, but also the people we want to protect. But you know our situation, we don't have that kind of talent at all. Yu Hihong felt a little worried, but she didn't lose her confidence. Yuan Yelin also pouted her mouth. The other two boys were even more depressed. They also want to protect girls, but their strength does not allow it. I am also very clear that what I will say next is also the most important thing. So please listen carefully. Sake Tian interrupted several of them, and then was very serious. After seeing Qi Tian like this, they stopped talking and started to listen carefully. Your strength can be further improved, and I will also find a way for you. For me, the few of you are my most important partners now. After all, I have no one else. You all know my family situation very well. I am an orphan. I feel very lucky to have made friends. Sake Tian said these things to them very seriously. If the strength is not strong, it can be cultivated, and it can be upgraded through acquired efforts. If a person is very lazy and wants to improve his strength, he must have a system like Sake Tian. We all understand these things. If you can really improve our strength, then I will definitely be the first person to sign up. No matter how hard your training is, I will persevere. Yu Hihong is very energetic, and she has long wanted to improve her strength. Yuan Yelin also nodded. I also very much agree. And I also trust you very much. Kakashi, Yuan Yelin's two partners, is already the best of their age. The strength is also very strong. As his partners, Yuan Yelin and Obito are relatively weak. I am also very aware of this, and I understand how you feel now. If you really want, I can guide you when I get home. I can let you at least increase your strength several times during the holiday period. Of course, the process is also quite hard. If anyone can't accept it, you can tell me in advance. After Kishin saw their reaction, he was also very happy. He has always fantasized that one day he can be a teacher himself. That feeling is really cool. not to mention that the profession of teacher is also very sacred. Improvement in strength is very desirable for them at this age. And everyone wants to be a genius too. If conditions permit, they will all pay multiple times their efforts. Because they believe that effort and return are directly proportional. Okay, no problem. Then we'll settle it. There's nothing to do when we get home anyway. Now I'm really looking forward to it more and more. I don't know what we will look like in the future. Yu Hahong was very happy, holding her face in her hands, and began to imagine the future in her mind. Yuan Yelin also leaked a happy smile. At this moment, Kishin's eyes shifted to the two boys, looking forward to what they would say next. Well, how are you two thinking? If you haven't thought about it, don't worry about telling me. Anyway, we haven't got home yet. It's not too late to give me an answer when we get home. Qi Tian looked at the two of them with a smile on his face, very gentle. Although Asma didn't know how to answer, he already had an idea in his heart at this time. Brother Tian, don't worry. I will definitely follow you. And I won't give up halfway, I will definitely train hard. This is my answer. I want to train with you too. I also want to be very strong. Asma clenched her fists and looked at Sakiden with certainty. Sakita nodded. Obito hasn't said anything until now, and has experienced so many times, and fully realized Sakiden's strength. Although there are many dissatisfaction, but the strength is in front of you. There is no way to refute it. I also train with you, hoping to get the results I want. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time. After a long time with the soil, he slowly said such a sentence. Others can hear a lot of dissatisfaction from this sentence, but they didn't say anything. Okay, it's really great. It seems that the few of you did not disappoint me. This kind of result is also what I want. In this way, we can work hard to improve together, and I will assure you that it will definitely make you stronger quickly. Qi Tian was very excited at this time. Looking at them, he seemed to feel that the future might change. The future endings of the few of them are not very good, and these are the reasons for their relatively weak strength. If the strength becomes stronger, it will not have such an ending in the future. Since you've all said that, I'll hurry up and make a training plan for you. Each of you has a different training plan, and you should all be very aware of that. Kishin stood up suddenly, and then saw a few of them. Is it because our strengths are different, and our chakra attributes may also be different? Yuan Yelin seemed to understand the truth of this very well. Kishin smiled and extended a thumbs up at her. Hearing what you said, I suddenly thought of a very important thing. Asma, now I have something to entrust to you. We need a total of 4 chakra test papers. You need to figure out your chakra attributes, so that you can make targeted training. Kishin suddenly remembered a very important thing, and then turned his attention to Asma. Don't worry, brother. I will definitely handle this matter perfectly. I'll give you the things as soon as I get home. Asma stretched out her palm in a yes gesture. Sakita nodded. Now everything is arranged, it just needs to wait until they get home to start implementing. It's getting late, and we've almost had a rest. Hurry up and hurry. This time we also had a lot of fun and had a common goal. We'll start training after the Chinese New Year is over, and I'll go back to find you when the time comes. Kishin looked at the few of them, and then looked at the distant scenery. Everyone nodded, stood up one after another, and carried all their luggage on their backs. Let's go home. A relatively long journey, once again unfolded. Everyone was in a very good mood along the way, and we talked about a lot of interesting things during the process. They also trust each other a lot. The most needed thing between friends is trust. After all, sometimes you need to give your back to your friends. I really hope that this one action of mine can change their future. There is only so much that can be done for you, and the rest depends on the results of your own efforts. Hopefully there will be a very happy ending. Qi Tian was at the back of them as early as, watching their backs, thinking silently in his heart. At the same time, he showed a satisfied smile. Strong strength determines their future life and death, and because of this, Kishin wants to change their ending by changing their strength. But as for what the future ending will look like, Kishin himself dare not draw a conclusion. The road is very safe, there are no enemies, no wild animals, only the laughter of a few of them. The friendship among several people also began to gradually heat up, and everyone began to gradually trust others, and even Obito felt a little weird about himself. Let's work harder, the village is ahead. It's getting closer and closer to our home. Take a good rest after returning home. Everyone has worked hard along the way. Kishin looked at the blurry Konoha village in the distance and smiled. He also misses the feeling of his own home very much. No matter where he is, he can't compare with home. Okay, let's work hard together. Run home in one go. See who's the first to arrive. When Asma saw the village in the distance, she felt extremely excited as if she had a chicken blood. Kishin looked at them with a smile, then nodded. In this case, let's have a competition. If the last person arrives, we will treat guests to dinner. I don't know how this bet is. Kishin looked at them and looked forward to it. Everyone thought for a moment, then nodded. Everyone agrees with this gamble, and they all start to prepare. Then start now. Just halfway through the conversation, the four of them ran to the front in one swift motion, and that speed was really fast. These boys are too ignorant of martial arts. They even ran away. Chi Tien fanned the smoke in front of his eyes with his hands, and then coughed a few times. He also quickened his pace and ran forward. The speed of the others is very fast. If they escape on the battlefield, they must be number one. I didn't see them being so active during normal battles. When they heard that there was a treat, everyone ran like rabbits. You guys are two rascals. Wait for me, Sake Tien shouted loudly while chasing after him. But waited for a few seconds and no one answered. Good guy, it seems that you are determined to let me treat you. That's really embarrassing, I can't let you succeed. Chi Tien showed a strange smile, and then disappeared in place in an instant. If it is a competition of speed, Kishin is sure that he will not lose to them. In the blink of an eye, Kishin came to the surroundings of them in an instant. Hey, I didn't expect me to be so fast. Kishin turned his head to look at Kurenai Yuhi and said with a smile, then accelerated and ran forward again. Yu Hahong froze for a moment at first, then held her breath and quickened her pace. Brother Tien, why are you so fast? Forget that your strength is above ours. A black streak suddenly flashed around Asma, and after careful observation, it was discovered that it was Sakadin. But he is also very distressed at this time. Among these few people, his strength is also at the bottom. If you don't do your best, it is very likely that he will be the last one. But even if you try your best, you may not be able to outrun others. See you at the end. Kishin came to the front of several people, then turned his head and made a greeting gesture to them. Then it switched to a black flash and flashed in the direction of the wood industry. The few people behind were completely confused, and none of them thought that the speed could only be so fast. Waiting for you to think that you can get a good advantage by running ahead. These little kids still need to be tempered, and it's just this time to teach them a lesson. It can also make them see clearly the gap between me and them again. I hope this method can be useful. Chi Tien was thinking in his heart as he shuttled through the forest. For these few people, Sake Tien really took great pains. After all, it is relatively important to him. I don't want them to end like that in the future. In order to change their ending, they must improve their strength. 10 minutes later, Kishin has arrived at the back mountain of Muya village very smoothly. When they come back, they also have to come in from here when they set off. If you go in through the gate, there will definitely be a lot of trouble. It seems that I am indeed a little too fast, let's wait for them. Chi Tien looked up at the sun in the sky, and then at the forest in the distance. The strength of these people is much weaker than he imagined. Even the most basic physical fitness failed. After returning home, we must give some of them some basic training plans, so that they have something to do these days. Chi Tien scratched his head, obviously a little distressed. After all, it was the first time to do these things. Although the profession of a teacher is very good, there are quite a lot of things to do. After more than 20 minutes, the remaining few people finally came here. And everyone was panting heavily, all sitting on the ground, not wanting to move at all. I didn't expect that your physical strength is so poor. It seems that the first one to train you is physical strength. As long as your physical strength reaches the standard, the rest will be much easier. In front of them, Chi Tien looked at them with a smile. When I was just waiting, I had already thought about how to train them, and these training items could also make them get the best improvement. The only thing is a little tired. I just looked and Asma was last, so now the answer is obvious. Asma, have you decided which day to treat us to dinner? Chi Tian came to his side with a smile. Asma didn't say anything here, and kept panting heavily. The running all the way just now did cost him a lot of energy. And he feels like it's the fastest he's ever run in his life. I am convinced of this matter, but at least let me take it easy. As for when to invite you to dinner, it's better to be tomorrow. Anyway, there's nothing to do these days. Let's go out for dinner tomorrow, and it's also to celebrate our safe return home this time. Asma sat on the ground and looked at the others with a smile. As soon as they heard that there was a free meal, everyone immediately cheered up. That's really great. I'm worried that I have nothing to do tomorrow. Looks like I won't be able to eat again tonight. Okay, let me save your stomach and kill you tomorrow. Kurenai Yuhi touched her belly with a smile, and her eyes were always on it. After hearing this, everyone burst out laughing instantly. I didn't expect you to be so interesting. It seems that several of us are going to do the same. This is really a smart choice. Why don't we eat something for lunch today, and have a good meal tomorrow? After all, it's delicious food. Kishin suddenly thought of a very good idea, and then joked with a few of them. After hearing this, Asma was a little unhappy for a moment. After all, she paid for it herself. It's really unkind of you to do this. It's obvious that you want to kill me. It seems that I can only treat you to ramen tomorrow. In this way, you can also eat less. Ha ha. Asma's head was running extremely fast, and then she looked at them with a smile. Everyone laughed. They didn't expect that the son of the dignified third Hokage would be so stingy. In this case, let's give him a punishment. Anyway, he doesn't want to invite us to dinner. Sakishin thought of another idea. Everyone looked at his eyes and understood instantly, and then came to Asma's side and surrounded him. What are you going to do? Don't mess around. Or I'm going to call for help. Seeing this situation, Asma panicked for a moment. Although they heard these words, they did not stop their movements, and evil smiles appeared on their faces. Shout, no one will save you even if your throat is broken. Chi Tian stretched his fingers and looked at Asma with a smile. Asma panicked. Looking at everyone, he panicked. Ah, broken throat. Ha 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 ha. A scream resounded through the entire forest. Sakadin and the others took off Asma's shoes and tickled the center of his soles with the dog's tail grass. This punishment is really cruel. 1 minute later, Asma was so weak from laughing that there was still a smile on her face. How about it? Have you thought about it clearly? Do you want to treat us to something delicious? Chi Tian sat beside Asma, shaking the dog's tail grass in his hand. The dog tail grass flickered, and Asma's heart skipped a beat. Okay, I promise you, I will take you to eat delicious food tomorrow. Please don't torture me like this again. Asma was instantly scared. After all, the feeling of tickling was not pleasant. Chi Tian smiled, and then threw the dogtail grass in his hand aside. It's fine if it's like this earlier. Why do you have to promise us after suffering such a crime? It seems that I have found a way to punish you in the future. In case you are disobedient when training you, then this method belongs to you exclusively. Sakishin stood up, and looked at him with both eyes. Asma swallowed her saliva, and the picture just now appeared in his mind again. Hastily shook his head in fright. Don't worry, I will never do this again. I will never be lazy. I swear that I will never be punished like this in the future. Asma put on her shoes in an instant, then stood up and said very seriously. Chi Tian nodded, and then slowly walked forward. Let's go, it's almost time to rest, and it's time for us to go home. Take your own things well, and don't leave them behind. Kishin came to several people and saw the equipment in their hands. Everyone nodded after hearing this, and then checked their things, and after making sure that nothing was lost, they carried their luggage on their backs. We're all ready, let's go home. It's getting late, and I want to hurry up and go home and have a look. Kurenai Yuhi smiled and looked ahead, and then started to walk forward. Everyone else wants to go home and have a good rest. Everyone walked slowly back to the village from the back mountain. In order to avoid the crowd, they chose a hidden path. After all, with so many things in hand, it is easy for others to become suspicious when they see it. Of course, doing so is also much safer. After this time, everyone has become very careful. Chapter 71. When they came to Konoha, everyone took their luggage and walked back home. To avoid crowds, they separated at the end of the path. Kishin pushed open the door after returning home, and saw the home he was very familiar with, feeling a little excited. It's really warm. It would be great if I could stay at home all the time. Although there is only one person, it will still be very warm. Sakita put the luggage on the ground and started cleaning. After all, I haven't lived at home for several days, and there is already a lot of dust in some places. It needs to be cleaned up properly, otherwise it will not be so warm immediately. After cleaning up, Sakita wiped the sweat from his forehead. In this season, I can still sweat, which fully proves how tired I am. Hee hee. Sakishin looked at his own sweat, and then there was something ridiculous. After packing, I also packed my luggage. This time he also bought a lot of things, enough to decorate his home well. It seems much more comfortable this way, and it's really worth going out this time. The next step is to formulate a training plan for them, and the physical aspect can be formulated first. After the chakra test strips are available, give them a test. I'm really excited. When Sakishin was talking, he took out a notebook from his room. After a brief thought, I started to write something in the notebook. Just keep writing and writing like this, without paying attention to the sun outside. After getting everything ready, Kishin found that it was already dark outside. Time flies so fast, and tomorrow I have to go out to eat again. Life is getting more and more fulfilling. Chi-Tien stood up and stretched his muscles, and then prepared some food for himself. After eating, restore everything in the room to its original state. It's really not good to have obsessive-compulsive disorder, no matter what time you have to be neat. This night, Chi-Tien felt extremely comfortable, and his body relaxed a lot. There was nothing to do the next day, and the few of them got together again. Asma took them to a barbecue, which cost him a lot of money, but he was very distressed. Chi-Tien also successfully obtained 5 chakra test papers, and also successfully knew the chakra attributes of each of them. After discussing the plan with them, Sakiden began to prepare the necessary training methods again. Everyone's training methods are different, which also makes Kishin feel a little distressed. But at least he has a lot of time to think about these things. It's really too difficult. I thought the profession of a teacher was very easy, but now it doesn't look like that. Sitting on the sofa in his own home, Kishin looked up at the ceiling with some frustration. But then he regained his fighting spirit. Thinking of the ending of those people, Sakishin felt unwilling to admit defeat. After all, his identity is so special, so he must turn the situation around. After 2 or 3 days, Chi-Tien finally made plans for all of them, and then handed them over to a few of them. The time to start training is the 3rd day after the new year. After all, time is limited now, so we must improve their strength before school starts. Tomorrow is the Chinese New Year. I really have some expectations. But I don't know what to expect. It's really boring. It's possible to spend this year alone. Is there any family to accompany you? Chi-Tien sat in the yard of his home and looked at the sky, feeling very uncomfortable. But at this moment, a few of them knocked on Chi-Tien's door. That's you. You are not at home for the new year, what are you doing here? After opening the door, Kishin was very shocked when he saw several partners at the door. He also didn't expect things to develop to this point. Of course we are here to accompany you for the new year, otherwise, what are you doing here? Is it training? That's impossible. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin mischievously. Others also showed smiling faces at the same time, and then took out New Year's gifts from their backs. Happy New Year, Yu Hahong and the others said in unison. Chi-Tien looked at the few people in front of him and the New Year gifts in their hands, his eyes filled with tears instantly. This big surprise was indeed a very pleasant surprise. Thank you so much. I didn't expect that you would come to accompany me to celebrate the new year, so what will your family do? Chi-Tien secretly wiped his tears, and then looked at them. Shi Hahong smiled. There is no need to worry about this matter. Anyway, we have stayed at home for a few days. We have already agreed this year. Yes, we have made an agreement with our family. We are partners anyway, so we must take care of each other. Yuan Yellen handed over her New Year's gift to Kishin. Chi-Tien was very excited at this time, and felt an indescribable joy. Then he hurriedly let a few of them walk into the house, and hurriedly took out the fruits and food. I'm really sorry, I don't know, you guys are coming to accompany me to celebrate the new year. So I didn't prepare much. Kishin felt a little embarrassed. After all, he really didn't prepare anything. These things are also left over from the previous days. It doesn't matter. When we came, there were a lot of things to eat in the New Year's gifts. It's just enough for several of us to eat together. Anyway, we must be very happy together. Yu Hihong smiled and put her New Year's gift in front. Chi-Tien looked at a few people, and became excited again, and tears kept rolling in his eyes. Thank you so much. I thought I would celebrate the New Year alone this year, but I really didn't expect you to come back. I don't even know what to say or what to do now. Kishin was extremely excited at this time. Looking at the few people in front of him, it was like seeing family members. Kurenai Yuhi and the others were obviously at a loss when they saw Kishin like this, and could only show some smiles. Ha, don't think that I came here voluntarily. If Lin didn't want to come, I wouldn't be able to come here. Don't be too sentimental. Obito, you have that unknown expression, and the words you say are so arrogant. Sakita smiled. It's okay, even if you didn't come here voluntarily, I welcome you very much. It's good to have you here. Kishin was very calm this time, and then looked at the New Year's gift in front of him. After getting the consent of several people, I opened all these gifts and saw the surprises they brought to me. You have worked hard, thank you again. Chi-Tien was very excited from the beginning to the present, and has never been calm. Looking at the gifts in front of him, he couldn't believe it was real, but the fact was in front of him and he couldn't deny it. Okay, be happy. Let us spend this wonderful year happily today. After this year, we will be 1 year older, and we will ask you to train us in the future. I will trouble you then. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Saketien and said with a smile. Chi-Tien nodded. He has always been very serious about this aspect. In this way, the few of them spent the whole day eating and drinking here. And when I came to the street at night, I saw a lot of New Year's fireworks. Everyone had a happy smile on their faces. Chi-Tien looked at his partner next to him, and saw the fireworks in front of him, and instantly felt that the world was really good to him. I like this place more and more. We must hurry up and become stronger. Only then can we protect them well. Chi-Tien watched several people secretly swear in their hearts. Happy time is always very short. They returned to their homes after spending the whole night. Although Kishin is now a person again, he is still very happy. After all, those good memories will always exist in his mind. There are still 2 days left, I hope they can surprise me by then. I don't know if they will break through themselves quickly with their talents. Saketien has been thinking about future training in his mind. And make it more important than anything else. Ding, it is very obvious that the host is a teacher, and the blood is ashamed, so it directly blackens and upgrades the Baman Dunjia. Ding, the 8-door Dunjia has been successfully blackened, and now it can open up to 6 doors. At this moment, the system brought him an even bigger surprise. This surprise directly startled Chi-Tien. Although, to be a teacher, I'm even embarrassed to say that. 6 doors, it's against the sky. Kishin stood up very excitedly, and danced. In order to celebrate this wonderful news, Chi-Tien took the time to come to the kitchen and prepared some delicacies for himself. And they all like to eat. Alone, really free. Looking at the delicious food he made, Chi-Tien rubbed his hands and couldn't wait to taste it. Surprises came one after another, and Kishin always thought that his spring was coming. And after the new year, spring will come soon. After eating everything, Sakiden let out a very satisfied belch. Touching his round belly, Kishin was extremely satisfied. Okay, let this love continue to be delayed. I hope that the future will be better and better, and I hope that the strength of the few of them will become stronger and stronger. Sakiden stood up and shouted very excitedly. After packing up his things, Saketien came to the street and began to prepare the necessary equipment. After all, training with a few of them requires a lot of things. Boss, pack all of these for me. Chi-Tien came to the store selling equipment and packed a lot of things very generously. He spent a lot of money to buy things, and this time he also spent a lot of money. And there is only a small part of the money left in his own small coffers. I didn't expect these things to be so expensive. I won't be cheated. I don't know how durable these things are. If there is a problem, you must come here to find the boss. You can't let me suffer. Qi Tian looked at the big and small bags in his hand and muttered softly. After getting everything ready, I put it in my room. How important these things are to him, he is also very clear. And it is also related to the training progress of all of them. Now Kishan has only one thought, and that is to let the strength of the few of them improve as soon as possible. Everything is almost ready, and then just wait slowly. I don't know what to do tomorrow, I hope there is nothing to come to me. Sitting in the yard of his own house, Kishan began to think about what happened before. After all, there is no way to do anything, and it can only be so boring. At this time, the Hokage building. The third Hokage was looking at the report in his hand, and his brows were also frowned according to the content of the report. Are you sure there is something wrong with this matter? The third Hokage raised his head and asked. Reporting to Hokage-sama, the news is indeed very accurate. There is no mistake. A ninja wearing an Anbu costume replied with great respect. I heard that Sandai Hokage took a deep breath of cigarettes, and then turned his head out of the window. Haha, it's interesting now. Go, see if that kid is at home this time. If he is at home, be sure to let him come over. Third Hokage rolled his eyes, and looked at Anbu in front of him with a smile. Yes, as soon as the voice fell, that Anbu's body began to blur, and he disappeared in place in an instant. The third Hokage kept staring out of the window, and kept spitting out smoke from his mouth. The times have really changed. You must know that there was not so much money back then. Qi Tian was still lying leisurely on the chair at home, not knowing what kind of things he would encounter. Suddenly a figure appeared on the wall of his house. Kishan spotted this figure immediately, but he didn't rush to attack. Looking at the familiar costume and mask, Kishan knew immediately that this person was Onbi. Who? Qi Tian looked at him very vigilantly, and if the other party made any move, he would immediately start the battle mode. Uchiha Sakuden, Hokage-sama please. Please follow me to the Hokage building immediately. Onbi Ninja looked at Sake and said coldly. When Qi Tian heard Hokage-sama, the image of the old man instantly appeared in his mind. What did the old man ask me for? Could it be that they found out about our going out to play? If that's the case, it's going to be difficult. Qi Tian's mind was running fast enough, and he instantly thought of what happened in the recent period. This is the only thing that can startle him. After all, it is a time of war, so be careful about everything. Sake Tian relaxed his vigilance a little after learning that this was the result. Then he stood up slowly and looked at the Anbu ninja on the fence. Okay, then please lead the way. Sake Tian made a very polite gesture, and then looked at Anbu ninja with a smile. As soon as the words fell, Anbu ninja's body gradually blurred again, and finally appeared in front of him instantly. Let's go. In this way, Sake Tian followed Anbu ninja and walked slowly towards the Hokage building. Sakishin, who was walking on the road, was still worried all the time. After all, if this matter gets out, there is really no good way. Then ask me, is there something that Hokage-sama told me to go? Although Sakishin knew that Onbi Ninja would never tell him, he still couldn't help asking curiously. Anbu Ninja did not speak, still leading the way. Is it like this in their department? I always feel that something is wrong. This feeling is really uncomfortable, and I don't know what I will face in the future. Qi Tian tossed and turned, feeling uneasy in his heart. The real horror is the result of this unknown. At this time, the Hokage building became lively again. Sarutobi, what do you mean? It's fine to rob someone from me last time, so is Uchiha Sakuden going to rob me this time? A man with a pineapple head patted the table with his hand, and some looked angrily at the third Hokage. Danzo, I didn't expect your news to be so fast. You must know that this is an extraordinary time, and he belongs to the Uchiha family. You must know that at his age, he is the only one who can open the kaleidoscope Sharingan. For the sake of safety, I must also find out his strength. If it endangers the village, this is absolutely not allowed. And even if you want him to join your roots, you feel that the Uchiha family will agree. Don't forget that this person is from the Uchiha family. The third Hokage smoked very calmly, as if he didn't take Danzo seriously at all. After hearing such words, the two fell into silence again. And the office is relatively deserted a lot. Since this is the case, then I have nothing to say. But you must know that among the geniuses of the Uchiha family, I will never give up fighting for it. But I will also wait for you to give me an answer. Although Danzo was a little disappointed, he didn't show it. Flicking his sleeves back, he left gracefully. Only Sandai Hokage was left alone on a stool to smoke. Master Naruto, brought by Uchiha Sakuden. At this moment, the voice of the Onbi ninja came from the door, and Sakuden was beside him. Okay, then you go back first. Sake Tien, come in quickly. The third Hokage waved to Anbu ninja, and then smiled, very amiable. Sake Tien has met Hokage-sama, so I don't know why I was asked to come this time. After Sake Tien walked in, he greeted very politely, and there is some respect in speaking. After all, he is the biggest figure in the entire Muya village. If he is not pleased with him, the road ahead will be difficult. Don't be so nervous, sit down first. The third Hokage looked at Sakuden with a smile, and also took a look at it. An 8 or 9-year-old child who can possess the current strength is really a genius among geniuses. Chi Tien didn't have any ink marks either, and went directly to the sofa next to him and sat down. It's not a big deal to find you this time, I just want to know about the situation with you. Sandai Hokage stood up and sat down in front of him. Understand situation. It would be better to say that it is asking the teacher for a crime. Well, if I knew all I'd tell the truth. Chi Tien sighed, now the result is like this, and it is impossible to avoid it. I heard you went out together a few days ago. And it seems that there are bandits on the road. The third Hokage did not beat around the bush, and directly said such a thing. Sakishin swallowed unconsciously after listening. Then slowly nodded, it seems that the news has been confirmed and there is no way to quibble. That's true, we just went to a small village to play. Nothing of particular importance happened. Kishin also decided to explain everything to him. After all, as Hokage, if the news in his hand is unreliable, he will never come to Shingshi to question him. Don't be nervous. In fact, this matter is nothing. I just worry about whether you have been hurt. I really didn't expect that your Uchiha family would produce such a genius as you. The third Hokage looked at Sake Tien and said with a smile. Kishin nodded, and he was not humble about this. After all, facts are facts and there is no need to hide them. Next, Chi Tien talked about all the things they encountered and happened in the past few days. Of course, his secrets will still be kept secret. I didn't expect you to encounter so many things. It seems that this journey must be uncomfortable. Although this matter is not a big deal, you did violate the rules. There are still punishments. But the exact punishment depends on your performance. The third Hokage kept smiling when he spoke, as if everyone couldn't see through. Kishin was a little angry in his heart, and he knew that there must be nothing good to come this time. And he is also a member of the Uchiha family, this time the third Hokage has caught the handle. If you don't give him some benefits, then you are likely to be in trouble. This matter is indeed our fault. If there is any punishment, I will punish myself. It has nothing to do with them, and I want to go myself. Kishin thought about it carefully and decided to take all these troubles on himself. After all, for the few of them, it would be difficult to escape if they encountered such a thing. Okay, refreshing enough, the old man admires young people like you. I can consider not pursuing other people, but you must promise me a few conditions. And I believe you can meet these conditions. The third Hokage looked at Sakuden meaningfully. The old man even asked for a few conditions, it seems that the lion really opened his mouth. Sakita thought for a moment, then nodded. Now that Hokage has said so, then Sakuden will definitely be able to do something. Otherwise, it is impossible to say such a thing. Okay, I promise you, please tell me what you need me to do. Chi Tien plucked up his courage and couldn't wait to know the result. Sandai Hokage laughed a few times, got up and took out some documents from the desk, and put them in front of him. First, you have to graduate early. Second, after graduation, take the Genin and Chunin exams, and then join Anbu. Sandai Hokage pointed at the documents on the table, and looked at Sakuden with a smile. After hearing those conditions, Kishin was also a little dazed. After all, this was the first time he encountered such a thing. And these 2 things are equivalent to 4 things. Graduated ahead of schedule, took the ninja exam, took the Chunin exam, and joined Anbu. In this way, his strength can also be proved, and after joining Anbu, it will also mean working for Konoha. I am a member of the Uchiha family, so this is also the strategy of the 3rd Hokage. Chi-Tien looked up at the face of the 3rd Hokage, feeling a little uncomfortable in his heart. But when he thought of his partners, he could only grit his teeth and nod. Who doesn't want freedom? But now it is also forced to be helpless. Kishin didn't speak, and directly picked up the pen and signed his name on those documents, which would also mean that he agreed to these conditions. Although these conditions are very good, Kishin has no idea what the 3rd Hokage is planning. I don't even know what kind of medicine is sold in his gourd. Master Hokage, that's fine, I hope you won't embarrass them in the future. I also hope that you can keep your promise. Chi-Tien looked at the old man in front of him, feeling very upset. Follow him any way you go. To be precise, he should be leading her by the nose. No problem. I hope you can continue to work hard in the future. Don't let me down. The 3rd Hokage looked at Sakishin with a smile, and seemed to have some other thoughts. Chi-Tien nodded. It seems that no one knows some of his secrets. In this way, it can be regarded as a reassurance for myself. Master Hokage, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. I still have some things to do. Kishin stood up suddenly at this moment. After all, this place is not suitable for staying for a long time. It's better to hurry up and leave. Well, I have another question I want to ask. I don't know, how did your kaleidoscope Sharingan open? The 3rd Hokage looked at Sakishin meaningfully, and finally explained the true purpose of this time. Chi-Tien was taken aback for a moment, then smiled softly. Master Hokage, I cannot tell you about this. It's a secret of mine, too. Kishin can't control so much now, and this matter must not be known to anyone. No matter how hard you ask. Sandai Hokage stared at Sakiden closely, and exhaled a puff of smoke from his mouth. Kishin was also very nervous at this time, and he didn't know what the consequences would be. The heartbeat also started to speed up gradually. He swallowed unconsciously. Ha ha ha. Nothing. Don't panic. I'm just curious. Who doesn't have a secret? Let's go, there's nothing else to do. 3 generations of Hokage can change face faster than flipping a book. Chi-Tien breathed a sigh of relief, this matter is finally over. Then he made a very polite gesture and walked out of the office slowly. It's dangerous, this old man is really bad. Fortunately, there is no danger. Let's hurry up and get out of here. Chi-Tien walked in the corridor, his heartbeat began to calm down. Soon he left the Hokage office building and came to the street. This kid is interesting. Sandai Hokage stood in the office and looked at Sakiden's back through the window. On the way home, Kishin also kept wondering what the use of those few conditions just now was. If it is because of his talent, it makes sense to be reused. But if you want to join Anbu, it means that you lose your freedom and you have to obey the arrangements for everything. Is it really annoying? I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. It seems that the future will be difficult. There is an exam for early graduation, and there are 2 more exams. These heads are big just thinking about them. Kishin was very irritable walking on the road. Such a market is indeed good for him, but there are also disadvantages. And what he doesn't know is that the Uchiha family is now causing a big disturbance because of him. After all, he opened the kaleidoscope Sharingan at the age of 8 or 9. In any age, he would be a genius among geniuses. And such a person, every force wants to get it for their own use. In the Uchiha tribe, Uchiha Fugaku also got the news that Sake Tien opened the kaleidoscope Sharingan. That reaction was intense. Are you sure it's kaleidoscope Sharingan? There must be no mistake. The person who brought the news was a member of Anbu who was also working in the Hokage office building. And also a member of the Uchiha family. He also heard this news accidentally from the door just now. It's true, I don't dare to be careless about this matter. I also checked the information specifically. There is only one person in our race named Kishin. He is an orphan, and he is only 8 or 9 years old now. The person who brought the news told all the news very calmly. Uchiha Fugaku was also very shocked. At the age of 8 or 9, this has been able to open the kaleidoscope Sharingan. No one can tell the Uchiha family how abnormal this matter is. You must know that in the original book, Uchiha Itachi also started writing Sharingan when he was 8 years old, but it was a hook jade. Even so, he has already been called a genius. Uchiha Sasuke was only 13 years old when he opened the Sangoyu. And now some people are able to open the kaleidoscope Sharingan at the age of 8 or 9. This one believes that if it is made public, it will cause a commotion in the entire ninja world. Uchiha Fugaku fell into deep thought, but then he was pleasantly surprised. As a group of the Konoha Guard, Uchiha Fugaku still knows a lot about Konoha village. My own family does not have a decent genius at this time. How could Uchiha Fugaku be unhappy when such a person suddenly appeared? Obito and Sakuten are both students of the same class, but one is at the bottom, and the other has already activated Kaleidoscope Sharingan. Thanks to the appearance of Sakuten, Uchiha Fugaku once again saw some hope. Patriarch, do you want Chi-Tien to come over and check now? It's better for you to confirm it yourself, the Uchiha tribe said. Uchiha Fugaku thought for a moment, then shook his head. This matter must be kept secret, and don't let him be linked to some things in the clan. There are many things in the clan, and I will send someone to protect him secretly, but having the Kaleidoscope Sharingan should also be very powerful. It is a great thing that our Uchiha clan can produce such a genius. In the future, there may really be a talent who can compete with Hokage. When Uchiha Fugaku spoke, his eyes shone brightly. It seems that they have seen the bright future of their own family. At this time, Chi-Tien, who was walking on the street, didn't know these things at all. If I had known it earlier, I would have kept a low profile. I never thought that the bad old man would be so well informed. Since he knows everything, it is impossible for the Uchiha family not to know about me. He hasn't come to me until now, that can only explain one problem. The time has not come. Chi-Tien suddenly stopped and began to think carefully. What happened today really surprised him. And he is also quite cautious in thinking. As the security team of Konoha village, it is impossible for Uchiha Fugaku not to understand these things. And among these several forces, each side has an eyeliner. If you want to get some news, it is really easier than drinking water. It seems that I have to be prepared too. I have to think of a reason that everyone can believe. Otherwise, my secret may not be kept. Chi-Tien clenched his fists tightly with both hands, thinking all the time in his heart. But the most important thing right now is still to improve the strength of a few of them. At that time, maybe a few of them will be able to graduate early. Every genius will be reused, and when the time comes, they will join Anbu together. That would be the best result. What's the use of thinking so much? It's better to do something practical. Just in case, I still need to talk to them. Move the training day forward one day. After Chi-Tien finished speaking, he walked in the direction of other people's houses. Tell everyone about the training day one day in advance, and tell them that they must work hard and never lose the chain. After everything was arranged, I returned home satisfied. And Chi-Tien also found something that surprised him. On the way home, and after returning home, I can feel the presence of some people around me. But they were all in the dark, and they couldn't know their injuries at all. But they haven't done anything, it seems that they didn't want their own lives. It's really strange. Could it be someone arranged by the old man, specially to protect my safety? No, there's absolutely no need for him to do that. Those conditions are obviously to test my strength. It is simply superfluous to send someone to protect me now. After Sakuten returned to his room, it started again. After all, things like this can't be sloppy. Besides the old man, who else could it be? Kishin thought and thought, but couldn't figure out the train of thought at all. But at this moment, a few large characters suddenly appeared in his mind. Uchiha. No, it's really them. If that's the case, it's likely to be the case. Chi-Tien suddenly realized, as if he had seen everything through. In this era, I take soil and stop water. At present, there are only 3 of us, and one of them is the bottom of the school. The other is only 4 or 5 years old, and I am the only one who has reached the current strength. Is it really from the Uchiha family? Chi-Tien's heart was full of many questions, and his eyes glanced outside inadvertently, just in time to see the ninja hiding in the big tree. After the ninja noticed his eyes, he was slightly taken aback. It's night now, and the line of sight is very bad. It may be a coincidence that Kishin can see himself accurately, or it may be intentional. Then the body instantly disappeared in place. It seems they don't want me to know who they are either. In this case, then I don't have to worry anymore. After all, they didn't come to kill me. If they protect me, then I really have to thank them well. After seeing the ninja disappear, Sake Tien smiled softly. Now that I have a kaleidoscope Sharingan, I am afraid that both parties know this news. It is impossible for the Uchiha family not to know the power of the kaleidoscope Sharingan. So far, only these two ideas are unclear. And they haven't let me go to the family land until now. It seems that things are getting more and more interesting. Chi Tien stood up and stretched his muscles, his expression seemed very relaxed. And he doesn't want to think about these things now. After all, if he doesn't threaten his life, he can do whatever he wants. The most important thing is to improve the strength of a few of them. It's started. Listen to me, cheer me up, you can't relax now. It's still the same sentence. It's too urgent to give up now, but don't wait until you enter targeted training to quit. On the first day of the training day, Sake Tien called them together and started the initial training. The initial training is the easiest, but it is also the most tiring. I won't quit, I will stick to it. Yu Hahong was the first to express her opinion, full of confidence. After seeing Kurenai Yuhi's attitude, Sake Tien nodded in satisfaction. Afterwards, the remaining few people also nodded, and none of them chose to quit. From this we can see everyone's determination. The desire to become stronger is really great, and Chi Tien is also very willing to see them like this. To be honest, I'm really happy to see you like this. Then let's start the devilish training. Considering that you are just starting, so run 2 laps first. I have already made marks around the forest. Just run around the marks. Chi Tien pointed to the forest around them, and then looked at them with a smile. The forest is indeed very large, but the sign made by Kishin is enough for 1 kilometer, and there is a distance of 2 kilometers after 2 laps. Everyone has no opinion. Seeing them, Chi Tien was sure again. Everyone shook their heads. In order to become stronger, they can do anything. Start. The last one will be punished. Sake Tien gave an order, and the 4 started running. Finding a place to sit down, Kishin looked at their backs that had gradually gone away, feeling a particularly comfortable feeling in his heart. Almost 10 minutes passed, and Sakishin finally saw the first person to cross the finish line, Asma. I didn't expect this kid to be so good at running. It seems that I usually underestimate him. Kishin watched them cross the finish line one by one, secretly pleased. In this way, 30 minutes passed, and everyone completed 2 laps. Although it takes a little longer, at least it is still very impressive. Very good. Now I will announce the last place. Obito, congratulations on being the last one. Then the penalty is 20 push-ups. Kishin waited until they were all gathered together, and came to them with a smile on his face. All of them were gasping for air now and felt like their lungs were going to burst. What? No way. It's really embarrassing that I haven't even run away from these 2 girls. Obito was a little angry, and kept looking at the 3 people around him. Immediately after finishing speaking, lie on the ground and start doing push-ups. Sake Tien wanted him to rest and start again, but after seeing him like this, he could only silently agree. Fine, that's what I want from you. Everyone rests for 10 minutes before starting the next training session. Kishin clapped his hands and smiled at everyone. The 20 push-ups were indeed very easy, and Obito started to rest after finishing them quickly. After all, in terms of physical strength, he himself knew that he was not that good. Okay, then move on to the next item. Chi Tien looked at them with a smile, and then took out some training things. Next is stamina, with 2 bricks on each person's body. Raise your hands flat in front of you, and gait. Just maintain this posture for half an hour. If any of them can't hold on, they will add another 10 minutes. After hearing this training method, everyone was a little surprised and felt a little disbelieving. What is this training? Could it be that you're playing tricks on us? Obito was the first to express his dissatisfaction. Actually, this is training your arm strength, and it will also be of great help to your future training. It's all about laying the groundwork for what you're going to do now. I explain it this way, is there any problem? Kishin watched everyone take out the equipment he brought. Everyone was silent after listening, and could only silently agree. These training methods are also their first experience. Although they don't know the effect of certain training methods, they still choose to believe in Kishin. As soon as the picture turned, 4 people, each holding 2 bricks in their hands, stretched forward and strode forward. 10 minutes later, sweat was already dripping from their foreheads. But still no one gave up. The training was indeed very hard at the beginning, but it was completely acceptable for them. Kishin also made a more systematic plan. The training at the beginning was all to lay the foundation for the future. If your physical fitness is not up to standard now, don't train anymore. After all, in the process of fighting, the most consumed thing is stamina. The day passed quickly, and the 4 of them finally couldn't hold on at the last moment and lay down on the ground. A day of training made them exhausted. Although they were sweating all over their bodies, they still felt very happy. And this kind of training also made them feel something they never felt before. After the training, they each returned home, took a bath, and began to wash. When going to sleep at night, everyone snores very much. It seems that these people have good talents. Today's training can also see their determination. I believe it will not be long before they will give me a satisfactory answer. The decision was absolutely correct. Sitting on his sofa at home, Chi-Tien looked at the simple materials in front of him, and began to be in a daze. He kept thinking about the future in his mind, and he also felt that many things were coming. There is still some time before school starts, and the 5 of them will arrive at the training place on time every day. Everyone did not give up and devoted themselves to training. A month passed quickly, and they also trained a lot during this month. Under Sake-Tien's careful guidance, the 4 of them also realized their weaknesses and strengthened many parts of their bodies. At least their best ninjutsu has been significantly improved. 1 month is very short, but each of them is very talented, and their strength has also improved quickly. School will start soon, and there will be no need for training in these 2 or 3 days. When I get home, organize my things and get ready for school. On a new day, Sake-Tien told 4 people about his next plan. I didn't expect time to fly so fast. A month passed in the blink of an eye. I feel that my strength has been significantly improved, and I am so happy. I will not give up in the future, and I will continue to train as usual every day. I believe it won't be long before my strength can reach a very high level. Seeing the changes in her body, Yu Hahong felt extremely excited. Yeah, I feel like I've lost a few pounds in the past month. And the muscle lines on the body have become much more obvious. Not to mention the aspect of strength. Yuan Yelin was also very happy at the same time. The 2 girls are happiest now because of their physical changes. Girls always like to be beautiful, and the thin ones are also very beautiful. This is what you deserve. But I also want to tell you that you must never give up in the future. As long as you have such a little idea, the things you have done before will fall short. Chi-Tien looked at a few people, and he was also very happy. It's like watching your own child grow up. Brother Tien, I didn't expect you to be a teacher. You are quite talented in this aspect. Maybe I can find a job as a teacher in the future. Don't forget about me then. In this month, I also want to thank you very much. Even my father felt that I was different after returning home. Asma held Chi-Tien's hand very excitedly. If Chi-Tien hadn't stopped him, Asma would have started hugging Chi-Tien long ago. It's okay, this is what I should do. I just guided you a bit. After finishing speaking, Chi-Tien hurriedly broke away his hand. Obito stood still and didn't say anything, but he had already started to thank Sakishin in his heart. Thin-skinned, he treated Sakiden like that before. And now his own strength improvement is all because of Kishin's help. I feel a little embarrassed myself. But what I want to say is that among the 4 of you, Obito's strength has improved the most. I also appreciate it very much. According to this progress, Obito will leave you a lot sooner or later. Sake-Tien understands very well how powerful Obito is in the later stage. But doing so now can only increase Obito's strength as soon as possible. After hearing these words, everyone looked at Obito with incredulous expressions. Me, is this real? Obito couldn't hold back any longer, and looked at the others very excitedly. Sakita nodded, and the other 3 people also felt very incredible. His own strength has improved so much, and Obito is even far superior to them. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for what I did before. Although you feel very annoying sometimes, you were really very good to us. I'm sure you are my friend, thank you. Obito froze in place for a long time before he said these words coyly. After hearing these words, Kishin also felt very incredible. I didn't expect things to develop like this. It's all right, in fact, I have long wanted to make friends with you. In this way, it's a matter of my mind. Kishin didn't know what to say and scratched his head. Then both of them stretched out 2 fingers and held each other. Seal of reconciliation. Yuan Yellen was so excited that she almost shed tears when she saw the appearance of the 2 of them, but luckily she held back. I didn't expect the 2 of you to really get along. It seems that the 5 of us have become friends. Do you want to celebrate together? There are exactly 2 things to celebrate, and one of them is that the strength of the 4 of us has been improved. The other thing is that the 2 of you formally reconcile. As the liveliest person in their team, Yu Hahong must of course liven up the atmosphere at this time. After hearing this, everyone nodded hastily. Such news really needs to be celebrated. Cheers. In a restaurant in Muya village, 3 teenagers and 2 girls sat around a table and toasted together. The cups collided together, making a tinkling sound. And all 5 of them had happy smiles on their faces. Everyone next to them didn't know that they were so young, what could make them so happy? Of course, this is also the thing that adults don't understand children the most. Every child has his own story in his heart and wants to do what he wants to do. School will start soon, and when it starts, I have already thought of the teacher's surprised expression. I have thought about this scenario countless times before, but this time it can finally be realized. You know Kakashi is very powerful. But now I have to start chasing him. Obito drank a large drink, and began bragging to his heart's content. Everyone laughed instantly after hearing these words. Obito, stop bragging. The difference between us and Kakashi is not 130. How could it be possible to catch up in such a short period of time? Asma seems to be a sensible person, and has a certain understanding of her own strength. In this way, the 2 began to talk, and each of them had their own opinions. What is Kakashi? Although I always thought Kakashi was very powerful when I watched anime before, but I don't think so anymore after that. Emperor Kai was able to almost kick the finale, but Kakashi after all. If you see what happened in the future, you will definitely not say that now. Chi Tien looked at the 2 of them and thought silently in his heart. The 2 girls sat aside without saying a word, eating there all the time. It's really strange. Why didn't the 2 of you talk this time? And according to your way of eating, sooner or later, it will return to its original appearance again. Chi Tien turned to look at the 2 of them with a smile. What's the matter? Anyway, we haven't eaten properly for a month. This time we decided to let go. Then wait until tomorrow to lose weight. That's it. Kurenai Yuhi stuffed a lot of food into her mouth, then looked at Sakishin with puffed cheeks. This is also the first time Sake Tien saw Yuhihong like this. Inexplicably feeling a little cute. That's right, he cares about us during training. Now that we finally don't have to train, should we be restricted from eating? Yuan Yellen also showed a very proud expression, extremely arrogant. Sometimes I really don't understand you girls. Forget it, just do what you think now. Sakishin was a little speechless. The 5 of them sat here and ate happily, talking about everything. Now that school is about to start, Chi Tien also has to face his first condition. Early graduation exams. Although I don't know what kind of model it is, Sake Tien is still very confident. I have the system in hand. According to my current strength, I don't know what kind of exam the old man will arrange for me. No matter what, he wants to test my strength. I will give him a big surprise then. I hope his little heart can bear it. Sake Tien thought to himself while eating. Several people ate food here for a long time, and walked out satisfied after they couldn't eat any more. Of course, this time is also AA system. It's so comfortable, and I haven't been so relaxed in a long time. School will start soon, and we must have fun in the last 2 or 3 days. Maybe after school starts, we will still be the top few in the class. Asma walked on the street, touching her round belly, looking extremely funny. The others couldn't help laughing after seeing him like this. I heard people say before that when I was young, I like to grow up. But when I grow up, I like to go back to my childhood. Until now, I don't know what it means. Maybe we will know when we grow up. Ha ha. Obito looked at them with a smile. Whoops, I'm going. Why is this sentence so familiar? Is there anyone in this world who thinks that way? It's no wonder that children have childish ideas, and adults have adult ideas. When I was young, I liked the unrestrainedness of growing up, and when I grew up, I liked the carefreeness of childhood. Human beings are so wonderful. Chi Tien was a little surprised at first, but then he regained his composure, with just a smile on his face. On the contrary, the few of them were a little fierce, and they could talk for a long time on such a topic. Everyone's point of view is different, and there are still many people who like it when they were young. Although there is no way to do many things, children are indeed carefree and don't have to think so much at all. The 5 people walked on this street for a long time and talked a lot at the same time. In the end, they slowly separated and returned to their respective homes. This time the training ended, followed by Sake Tien's early graduation exam. Time passed silently, and the day when school starts is also today. All the students returned to their familiar schools. After a new year, they grew up another year, and they didn't know what kind of changes they could have in this year. It's finally the start of school. I didn't expect that there are still so many people in the class. Sake Tien sat in his seat and looked around, complaining. Of course, you really want to subtract some people. That's really naive. At our age, no one would drop out unless they were told to do so by the school. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin with some contempt. After all, not everyone can think of such an idea. Actually, that's not what I meant. It's just that we are 1 year older now, and there will definitely be new classmates coming. Just now I figured it out, there will definitely not be any new students in our class. Sakishin scratched his head in embarrassment. Yuhi Hong pursed her mouth and sighed. There is something magical about this idea. By the way, I almost forgot to tell you. I have a message to tell you. I want to apply for early graduation. In school, I don't learn anything anymore. Just graduate early and go on missions. It'll still be fun. Sake Tien looked at Kuroyuki with a smile and finally decided to tell her the news. What? Yu Hahong opened his mouth wide and froze on the spot, thinking of countless possibilities in his mind. After a while, he slowly closed his mouth. Is it really? It's no wonder that you can indeed do it with your current strength. And you can learn a lot after entering the society. Kurenai Yuhi was a little disappointed. To be precise, if Sake Tien graduated early, it would mean that he would not be able to see him for a long time. Be optimistic, these things will have to go through sooner or later. Your strength has also been improved to a certain extent. As long as you work hard in the future, I believe you can graduate early. At that time, you can team up with me to carry out the mission. In fact, Sake Tien also thought of this result before talking about it. After all, they have only been together for such a period of time, and the relationship has been established with great difficulty, and now they have to separate again. Did you tell anyone else about this? Yu Hihong asked. Chi Tien shook his head. You are the first to know. In fact, I also have some reasons, but I can't tell you now. When the time is right, I will naturally know. Kishin originally planned to tell all of them about this after going down today. In this way, it can be regarded as giving them an explanation, and you let them get used to it in advance. Yu Hihong nodded helplessly. Okay, don't be so sad, I'm not here, so don't relax. And I don't go out to the main task every day. As long as I have time, I will come to check. If you step back a little, I will definitely punish you well. Chi Tien patted her shoulder lightly, then smiled. Red Yuhi nodded. The whole day, the teacher did not give lectures, but it was also to let the students adapt to the environment first. After all, school just started, even if the teacher said something, they might not be able to listen to it. After school, the few of them gathered together again. What, you're going to graduate early? Asma yelled. It seems that this news came as a surprise to them all. Can you keep your voice down? It's enough that only we know about this news. Sake Tien immediately made a small gesture with his hand. Are you stupid? The less people know about such things, the better. Let's make this news public now, and it won't explode. Yuhi Hong felt a little unbelievable, and Asma in front of her seemed to have no brains. Asma also immediately shut his mouth, but he still expressed his shock. Although Kishin is very powerful, there is no need to stay in school anymore. But now the news is really sudden. Forget it, since you have already decided on this matter. Then we don't need to say anything more. Be sure to wait for us outside. At that time, we will graduate early and find you. It is somewhat abnormal that Obito is true today. After that training, the relationship between the two of them gradually began to improve. Don't worry, I know about this. I also look forward to your future. Don't say any more about this matter. I will apply tomorrow. I should get a reply soon. Sakiden stood up and turned his gaze to the Hokage building. It seems that the third Hokage is looking at him. After all, I am very important now, and every force wants to get it. After a few days of thinking, Sake Tien also realized that not only Hokage and the Uchiha family, but also an extremely terrifying character, Danzo. Okay, don't discuss this matter now. I have already decided that I am completely unnecessary in school. Only by going to society can I get better development. I also hope that you can work hard in the future, and don't give up easily. I'll be waiting for you in the future. Anyway, it's just a word, and we all need to work hard together. Sakishin turned to look at them, and then said with a smile on his face. Everyone hesitated for a while, then nodded. Now this is also the best result. Everyone agrees with this method, and it happens to encourage them, so that they will not give up easily in the future. Then let's all go home first. Tomorrow should be the official start of school. Everyone go home and get ready. At that time, I also hope that you can shine in the class. Chi Tian looked at a few people and instantly imagined what they would look like when they grew up. Instantly felt a little cordial. To be able to become friends with these people, Chi Tian also feels that this life is worthwhile. Everyone smeared for a while, and then walked back home slowly. And everyone was obviously not very happy when they got home. My heart has been simmering things. Unknowingly, the relationship between the few of us has become so close. I never dared to imagine these things happening. It was like a dream. It was very magical. After Sakiden returned to his home, he sat in an empty room. My heart is also very uncomfortable, and graduating early will also mean meeting new people. And we have to get along again. Anyway, there are still many things that need to be done. I don't know what will happen in the future. Sakita shook his head weakly, and then started cleaning. Whenever something goes wrong, Sakita will clean up to distract himself. Another day has passed. Today Chi Tian came to the school very early, and then found the teacher to submit an application for early graduation. The teacher thinks that Sake Tien also has the same strength as you. Once you have everything in place, it's time to start preparing for the exam. Sake Tien didn't know the content of the exam until now. This is what worries him the most. After communicating with the teacher, Sake Tien already knew the date of the assessment. Even tomorrow, Kishin didn't expect to be able to do so quickly. You can take the exam tomorrow, maybe you can get some benefits. But it is still necessary to bargain with the 3-generation-old man. It can't be good for him, but not good for me. When Chi Tian walked out of the school, he suddenly had a plan in his heart. Conditions are negotiable, you can't be led by others. Chi Tian also wants to take advantage of this opportunity. After making the decision, Sakiden started walking towards the Hokage office building. Boom boom boom. There was an unhurried knock on the door, and Chi Tian stood outside the office door. Please come in. After getting permission, Sake Tien pushed open the door and walked in. It's Sakiden. The third Hokage was slightly shocked when he saw that this person was Sakiden. Lord Hokage, didn't bother you. Kishin didn't directly say the purpose of coming this time, and kept smiling on his face. No, what's the matter, do you have anything to do with me? The third Hokage was a little surprised. Actually, there is nothing wrong. Now I know when the assessment is due. Tomorrow is the day of the assessment. I came here today because I have something to talk to you about. Chi Tien unceremoniously found a place to sit down. Sandai Hokage didn't say anything, and took out his big smoking gun. Oh, tell me. After a while, a smoke ring came out from his mouth. Chi-Tien had already thought about what to say in his mind. Actually, I feel quite embarrassed to come here this time. You also know that my current strength is just like that. If I graduate early, I will definitely go to perform the mission. But I still have very few ninjutsu in my hands. Sake-Tien started his roundabout tactics. He didn't make his words so clear. After all, he was a little passive no matter what he did. Then tell me what you want to do, you kid is really good. Haha. As someone who has been there, this old man knows what Chi-Tien wants to do. I don't know, will there be any rewards for graduating early? And I also know that a genius like this will be valued. If my strength does not permit after graduating early, let me participate in the mission. If I don't have the strength to fight against the enemy, isn't this the worst result? So I just wanted to ask you, is there any reward? Sake-Shin showed a very innocent smile and looked at the old man of the third Hokage. The old man of the third generation of Hokage didn't say anything, but he still kept a smile on his face. No one could see through what his smile represented. At this time, Sake-Tien was still worried. It would be very embarrassing if this could not be done. Ha ha ha, kid, you really didn't remind me of this. Although you are very strong now, it doesn't mean that your learning ability is very good. No matter what kind of ninjutsu, it requires hard training. You must not try to be refreshing for a while. Even if you have Sharingan, you still need to practice hard. The third Hokage looked at Sakaden with a smile. Chi-Tien nodded, looking very much like the kind of person who humbly asks for advice. As for those rewards, there will definitely be them. As for what I want to give you, it must be something very good. But only if you fulfill those conditions. 3 generations of Hokage explained to him again. After hearing this, Kishin finally had a solution. Slowly nodded. Then thank you Hokage-sama first, and I will definitely work hard. Just wait and see my performance. Chi-Tien stood up slowly, with a smile on his face. Another condition was reached between the two, but now it is Sake-Shin's advantage. If there is nothing else, then I will leave first. There are still a lot of things to do, and I need to prepare for tomorrow's exam. Sake-Tien made a very polite resignation gesture. The 3-generation Hokage old man nodded. After leaving the Hokage building, Chi-Tien was very happy walking on the street, and he was much happier. I didn't expect it to be so easy. It seems that geniuses like me are indeed very rare. If I knew it earlier, I would have made more mistakes. Kishin has a little bit of regret, but the result now is the best. Tomorrow is the assessment, and of course I don't know what the content of the assessment is now. For him, these are pediatrics. Take tomorrow's assessment seriously now. I heard that graduating early is not that difficult. On the contrary, those ninja exams are something. That's another problem. Chi-Tien stopped suddenly while walking on the road, thinking about these things all the time. Thinking about it carefully, there are only such scattered fragments. In the previous world, I watched Naruto countless times. And now I have to experience these things myself, feeling really lucky. The dream I once had is now in my life. What are you thinking about so much? If you have that time, why not think about what will happen after you join Anbu? It is said that everyone there has a code name, and everyone has their own exclusive mask and weapon. Thinking about it, it feels particularly high-end atmosphere. A picture of himself after joining Anbu has already appeared in Sake-Tien's mind. Although it was just his own imagination, it was quite in line with the status quo. After joining Anbu, although you will lose your freedom, at least it is a job with a certain income. And there is no need to get up early to go to school, and there is no need to worry about whether there will be another meal after this meal. After thinking about a lot of things, I slowly returned home and started to prepare for tomorrow's assessment. The next day was still at school, and Sake-Shin stood there waiting for the results of the exam. This time was different from the usual one, no one watched the battle. After all, except for Sakaden, all the students are still in class. I have to bid farewell to this place completely. I am a little bit reluctant. If you don't take this step, what will you do in the future? Kishin is in an extremely complicated mood now, and he doesn't know why he feels this way. Uchiha Sakaden, 2, passed all the exams. Congratulations, you have passed the examination and now you have become a qualified ninja. This is your forehead. Under the witness of the assessment teacher, Sake Tien successfully passed all the examinations. Now he has become a real ninja. Congratulations. Go back to class and say goodbye to your classmates. The teacher gave him the forehead protector, then smiled at him and said. Chi Tien nodded, and then looked at the very familiar symbol in his hand. The two returned to the classroom, and all the classmates saw this scene. No one is not envious. Okay, now we have another student who graduated early in our class. Combined with Kakashi before, I really didn't expect the two of them to be so powerful. The class instantly started a frantic discussion as if a pot had exploded. And some girls also expressed their reluctance. Sakuden-kun, I will work hard for you. Youth is the need to constantly sweat. Mushroom Head Kai, you are like a special middle school boy. Brother Tien, it's really amazing. I will definitely catch up with you. Asma cried out in abnormal excitement. Sake Tien, be sure to wait for me outside. I will definitely redouble my efforts, and then go out and challenge you again. Obito showed a smiling face at the others. The two of us will work hard. We will definitely not lose to any of them. Yu Hihong and Yuan Yelin also spoke very quietly. Since Sake Tien graduated early, the two of them have become tablemates. Kishin looked at all the students in the class and smiled faintly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.